We are the Orcs, and we have a plan.
To watch all of Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica.
And drink beer.
Hello friend, just a little apology before we get started. I've got a brand new computer system and hadn't quite ironed out all the kinks before we started recording, so apologies that it sounds a bit like we're recording in a box, but as you can tell from this little bit, normal service will be resumed in future.
Hello friend, and welcome to Borgcast, Galactica, whatever it is.
4.4 as I just told you.
Yeah, sorry, I struggle with the numbering a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I always have done. Anyway, I'm Anne-Marie, if you didn't know, and he's Peter.
Yes, I'm the slightly less drunk one.
Sorry. It's, like you always used to say, it's been a week. Yeah.
Get stuck straight into home part 2.
I'll be going down on a Raptor.
What?
I'm not going to leave the fleet undefended. It's too risky to try to take all of us.
Send a search party for frack's sake.
And Zeus warned the leaders of the 12 tribes that any return to Kobol would exact the price in blood.
It certainly did for us.
No more bloodshed. Enough loss. I'm only going to take people who are absolutely necessary. Don't try to argue with me, Saul. Truth is, I'm the only one that can reach out to Roslin. It's always been between us anyway. We may have gone down separately, but we're going to come back together. Hopefully on our feet. Not even in body bags, we're going to be coming back together.
And you've got Apollo in the rain with a compass. Because, yes,
Here comes the rain again, falling on my head like a memory, falling on my head like a new emotion.
Where's his Canada? So.
yeah. And now you've made me think of that South Park song, Blame Canada.
Well, it's rain Canada.
And basically you have a whole load of scenes on Kobol in the rain, in the woods again, intercut with Adama and Ty and Gator and Tyrrell on the Galactica, kind of in council. And the group on Kobol are trying to find the tomb of Athena, and Adama is like, he's piecing things together and saying, look, she says she sees things. She says that she's going to find the tomb of Athena. She believes it. That's what matters. I've got to put the fleet back together, so I'm going, and I'm not going to risk the fleet. And you know, we might start out separate, but we're coming back together, even if that's in body bags. Which it's not quite him admitting he's wrong, which he sort of kind of is and kind of isn't. It's all a bit grey, isn't it, really? But at least it is him reaching out and sort of going, things have got to change now, whatever happened before, which I like. We have a survivor count of 47,855 survivors. Is that more or less?
3 less than last time.
Okay. Do we know why it's 3 less?
Well, we lost Losha, didn't we? So she's one of them.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you who the other 2 are off the top of my head, though.
Okay.
But I think there may have been a couple of others on Kobol that bought the farm, so...
Oh, okay. Fair enough. And then you've got Sharon and the humans who are looking for the tomb of Athena argue about scripture, and she's like, I know more about your scripture than you do. And she just gets a look from Starbuck, which I like. And you've got Baltar smoking a cigar and being really, really pissed off with Six, who is naked. Except it's bloody clear she isn't there. I mean, you know, they show loads of empty chair shots and whatever.
When she is there, sat on the chair, it's straight out of, you know, the film Scandal?
No, I don't.
Right. If you see the movie cover for Scandal, you'll realise what that they're referencing.
Okay.
But this is a scene that was added in order to pad out the second part, because originally it was just going to be one part.
Okay, but it plays into the next episode straight
off.
It
does, and it's enjoyable padding, so I don't mind at all.
Because
one of these frequent flip-outs.
Yeah, because she says, you know, our child will be born here, and he's just like not having it. So then you get Six with straight hair in a tracksuit.
Yes, which apparently is more like what Trisha Helfer looks like in real life. Yeah.
basically saying you're crazy. There is no chip. You are mad. I am your subconscious. And basically she tells him to get himself checked out, which I like. And then on the Raptor, Adama's brought Billy because Roslin trusts him. And then Adama says, what I am convinced is bollocks that he made up. That Roslin said that Billy was presidential material and reminded her of Adar in his first term of office. And I reckon Adama's saying that to make Billy feel better, and I reckon it's bollocks, and she never said that.
Well, he does have previous for coming up with stuff like, I know where Earth is.
Yeah. But then he says, don't let it go to your head, Adar was a moron.
Well, yeah, originally he said Adar was a prick.
Really?
Yes.
Wow,
but
like it.
The network wouldn't let them have that. Neither would they let Tyrrell say earlier on topography's for pussies. So, both pussies and...
Pansies are wrong.
Oh, no, he said pansies, but yeah.
No. I don't like that at all.
But pussies and pricks are banned.
Okay. But pricks, not a problem with. But whichever... for now. But whichever way you put it, saying that topography is either for pussies or pansies, that's a slur. Mm-hmm. Whereas saying Adama is a prick is not a slur. It's just an insult.
Adar.
That's it, Adar even. Oh, I have just seen the scandal picture and now I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this sort of frankly freaky scene where Sharon on Cobalt is going, I know I don't know these people, except I do. I remember the uniform.
Yeah, which sort of spelt out that there is information sharing between the same numbers, if you see what I mean. So, yeah.
This is like being with my family and everything's real. Is that too weird? And Hilo's like, no, I'm okay with that. And I'm thinking, you weird fucker. Nobody should be okay with that. I mean, you can say, this is freaking me out, but it doesn't stop me loving you. That would be an okay thing to say. But I'm not freaked out by the weird shit you've just said. It's either a lie or there's something wrong with your brain. And then you've got Zarek and the bloke plotting. What's bloke's name? I've forgotten.
Maya.
Right. And they're talking about how they're going to take out Lee, and they're going to stage a coup or whatever, and they're going to use Sharon. Which, I like them coming up with that as an idea, but they're going to wait until they find the tomb. And then you've got a scene with Starbuck making Roslin aware of the fact there's people back on Caprica and asking for a rescue. And Roslin is just like, I can only cope with the tomb right now, just come back later. Which, is understandable in the circumstances. They're all being pissed on with rain and they're all exhausted and whatever. And then you've got Baltar, who's gone and asked for an MRI scan, which you've got to keep completely still for. And then basically Six starts being playful, and then he smacks his head, and then she starts sort of taunting him and he's shouting and whatever, and Doc Cottle's just going, stop going crazy in there, I've got to start again, which I like. And then Maya plants the seeds of discontent with Sharon, but in a really clever way, because he's not lying, he's just not telling the whole story. So he says initially, like, that your Sharon was murdered and no one did anything about it, but he doesn't say, well, that's because everybody was really pissed off because she shot Adama and it wasn't a planned killing. Do you know what I mean? He's not giving all the information about what happened, but he's using it to sow discontent, just like Double Trouble in She-Ra.
Right.
Yes. It's like this guy Meyer he's clever. Do you know what I mean? He's scheming and sly and whatnot. And then they hear a noise, and they're all like, weapons drawn and whatever. And it's Adama, and it's a bit of a standoff. And then Adama gets a bit teary and gives his son a hug, which is sweet. And then Roslin is really pleased to see Billy, which is also sweet. And then Adama and Starbuck reunite, and just as that's about to be really sweet, Sharon appears, and Adama just goes for a jugular. I want you to die! But then she turns round, and she says, and you ask why. How does she know that he said that to the other Sharon's dead body?
Oh, I wonder why she said that, and now you've revealed. Yeah, that's interesting. Freaky.
How's that work?
I don't know.
I need more beer. Can't cope. Baltar is having showing the results of his scans, and there's nothing there. And he's like, is there really nothing there? Is there really nothing there? And Cottle's like, look, take the scans and just obsess over them in your own time. Hypochondriac, which I like. And then you have a toilet scene without an actual toilet. Because you've got Zarek and Maya having a piss in the woods.
Yeah.
And then, because obviously Adama and that are there now, Zarek is saying that we've got to leave it, and the other guy's going, oh no, but this is our chance. And then Zarek says, let it go, while literally letting it go.
Just be glad they weren't having a dump.
Oh, let it go, let it go. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. At least they weren't there with shitting with a shovel. And then you have a scene with Adama and Roslin where he's like, I forgive you. And she's like, that's nice, but I didn't ask for your forgiveness. And he's like, well, you got it anyway.
They're using each other's first names for the first time.
Yeah.
Which is quite sweet, actually.
Yeah. But he says that they shouldn't question the fact that they left the fleet, even because she's told him about their survivors on Caprica. And he says that he'd be dead, his son would be dead if it wasn't for her. And he's like, I'm grateful for every day. Every day is a gift. She says from the gods, and he says, no, from you. Which is sweet. And then I have a conversation with Sharon and Hilo where she says, they don't see me as a person, they see me as a machine. That's true. Absolutely true. You think of all the other scenes where, was it Leoben with the head in the bucket and all that lot? Do you know what I mean? They are seen as machines. She isn't wrong. And then she's planning something, and she says to Hilo, do you love me? He says, yes. She says, do you trust me? And he says, yes. And she said, well, trust me, trust us. And then she's talking to Maya, and she says, basically, when they get to the tomb, they'll be distracted. I'll take the father, and you take the son. So they get there, and Sharon pulls a gun on Adama, which then results in an awful lot of other guns being drawn. But she then shoots Maya. And she's still got the gun at Adama, and she says, I am my own person. I know what I am. And you need to understand I make my own choices, and I make this choice of my own free will. And then she hands him the gun, which was Maya's. That's where she got it from. And you would think that maybe that might mean something to them. Kara tries to work out what to do with the arrow, which reminds me of the scene in The Hobbit.
Yes.
And it reminds me a bit of, there's also a similar scene in The Lord of the Rings, isn't there? Melon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they just literally pushed the door, which I like, actually. They were using the arrow at the wrong point, push the door and get it to work. They got the icons of the 12 tribes, and you could put the arrow in Sagittarian's bow. It then sort of looks like it simultaneously locks them in and out. It's a bit odd. They're on Earth, and they've got these, it looks a bit like Stonehenge, but with the signs of the zodiac on.
Mm-hmm.
They use the hour rather than their constellation names, Sagittarius.
Roslin refers to them as being the original names of the colonies, which is interesting.
And they're like, this is where are we? Is this the map? And then it's like, well, no, we must be on Earth if we see in the constellations. And then they see astral body M8, which gives them a direction, so now they know.
It's a Crab Nebula, I think. Could be wrong.
I think they call it the Laguna Nebula.
Yes, they've got a different name,
yeah. But it's definitely artificial, because there isn't a place in the world you can stand and see all the constellations quite like that.
Exactly, yes. There is a degree of artifice about this in order for them to realise that it's all the constellations.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The other thing is I do like the creepy music in the tomb as well. That's cool.
Yes. And then you have, I presume they have these ceremonies in the hangar bay?
Yeah, it is the hangar bay.
And Adama says, we ought to work together and support each other, and sometimes we fail. We need to lift each other up, and then reinstates the president. And he's clearly angry that they don't clap properly. So
he gives her the clap.
Oh, that's got to be our episode title. Adama gives Roslin the clap. And then you have Sharon in a cell, and she's talking to Hilo, and he's like, I don't want our baby born in a cell. And then Baltar overhears, and it's a callback to the earlier episode. And then Six appears, and he's like, well, look, I know you're not a chip because I've had my head scanned now. You can't just be my subconscious given what's happened. And she says she's an angel, and he's like, to what end? And she says, the end of the human race.
Ba ba ba.
Creepy as fuck. But 6 has always been creepy, and I love the fact as well that, and he's like, that's our baby, and you can tell there's jealousy between her and Sharon, and I'm wondering whether it was supposed to be that perhaps that alongside her getting close to Baltar for the whole let's annihilate the human race type thing, was it supposed to be that because they were in a relationship, she was supposed to get pregnant, and that's why she's so jealous of Sharon? Because she was hoping that she would be pregnant and Sharon is. No. It made me think that. It just made me wonder if that's where... I mean, I'm not sure the 6 likes anyone, if I'm honest.
No, she... well, other than Baltar, obviously. But
in terms of the other side... Yeah, but in terms of the other Cylons. But she does seem to have a real antipathy towards Sharon.
Yeah.
And I wonder as well whether she knows that she and Baltar are not in love. In lust, absolutely, but not in love. And particularly given that when she knows that Sharon and Hela are in love, again, that makes it worse for her. I don't know. Maybe she's just a complete fuck-up. Possibly. But what I'm finding interesting as we're seeing more of the Cylons, and we've met a few now, is that I mean, Leoben played a few mind games, but some of what he was saying, you could see that maybe he thought that way. And you've got Sharon, who basically seems nice. And it's like, 6 is what the humans think of when they think of a Cylon.
Thus far, yeah.
She's the bitch. do you see what I mean?
Thus far, yes.
And the others are different from her. Not necessarily that they're all nice, don't get me wrong.
No.
But I think that she is the epitome of what humans think of when they think of a Cylon, and we are seeing differences in the others, aren't we?
I think it's also partly because we met 6 first, so
yeah,
kind of.
But also, she killed a fucking baby.
Yeah.
So when humans say they're just machines, they don't care. I don't think they're wrong when it comes to 6. But I think there's enough of Leoben to make me think, given the conversations he was having. You know, I know in a way he was messing with his head, but even so, he was raising, I thought, legitimate points when he was having that conversation with the Dharma way back. And Sharon's nice. I just think she is, and I just think that she just went wrong because she was broken, because she didn't know what she was. Do you see what I mean?
So I think it's a good part 2.
I think it's a very good part 2.
And it obviously ties up quite a few of the loose ends. Not all of them, but quite a few of them.
It ties up quite a few while still keeping other things going, which is what you want in an ongoing series that has an arc.
Yeah.
Unlike Lost.
Right.
Yeah, so, and also, I just remember so many, in particular, next-gen 2-parters.
Yes, that disappointed.
Yeah. And this doesn't.
Nope.
I really like it.
Yep, well, let's find out what other people thought. We've heard from Doreen. I'm not sure I enjoyed this episode. I was a wee bit confused by montage at the beginning. This is the first time I've watched BSG. I was surprised by 8's actions at the tomb on Kobol. I thought she was really going to shoot Adama rather than expose Zarek's sidekick. How did Adama, Roslin, etc. get back to Galactica from Earth? Yeah, we don't really see that, do we?
I don't think it was actually Earth. I think it was... That's what I'm
kind
saying.
of but how did they stop? You know, how did they get from that point to... Because it was all like a sort of... I think, anyway, like a projection that they were involved in. Presumably... I don't know, because she didn't have the arrow in her hands anymore. Do you think they'd have switched... Because they switched it on by putting the arrow in the statue's hands. Presumably did switch it off by pulling it out again.
I just thought it ran out of time, because I sat there thinking... I was literally watching it thinking, somebody write this shit down. You don't know when it's going to stop. Because the fact that nobody can... There is no point on Earth where you can see the constellations like that suggested to me it was an image playing and a projection, and it was like, when is it going to stop playing? Quick, write it down. Why isn't anyone recording this?
I don't know much about star signs, but even I know that the names of the 12 tribes are named the same as the zodiac signs. Well, yeah, close enough. The humans looking for Earth, the Cylons talking about the one true God. I'm having trouble remembering they're not talking about my religion. This in turn is affecting my enjoyment of the show. Oh well. All you need to worry about, Doreen, is that it's not real.
So you need to realise, darling, it's not reality.
Yes, as Tracy would say, that's what you need to keep saying to yourself. Yeah.
And we've heard from Sampo and Yona, who write, "Hello, Orcs, and greetings from the future year of 2020. Before we get into the feedback, a personal question. Your stated plan is to watch all of BSG and drink beer. But what beer are you both drinking tonight?" Okay, well, I started with Hogsback Tea, which is actually TEA, which stands for Traditional English Ale. I had 2 pints of that. I'm now on Green King IPA.
And I had a couple of pints of Master Brew, and now I've moved on to the Tanglefoot.
There you go. On to feedback, first about Home Part 2. Unlike I thought at the end of the last episode, Adama doesn't just jump the whole fleet to Cobalt. In fact, he only sends a skeleton crew to avoid unnecessary losses. The motley crew of Adama, Tyrrell and Billy, and the reasons of them coming along make sense. Tyrrell's been there before, Adama needs to go to reconcile, whatever.
Yeah, racetrack is there as well.
The reasons for each of them coming along make sense, although Billy's job seems to be pop up in the frame now again and look confused. That seems to be Billy's job. That's just it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's partly because of the sort of umming and ahhing about whether he continues in the show or not. So.
When they meet up with the Cobalt expedition, Adama basically breaks down and starts hugging everyone. It's like you when you're pissed. Quite a big change to the older Adama, but then again, getting shot seems to have really changed him.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting shot, someone should have really warned him Sharon's there. When he tries to strangle her and she survives only because he isn't strong enough to finish her off was pretty disturbing to watch. This is the second time in 2 episodes when someone wants to kill Sharon just after seeing her walk around a corner. Speaking of, Sharon is starting to get really disgruntled about her situation. While I do understand her, she's clearly being treated just as a Cylon by everyone except Hilo. She should understand why. She does represent a species that wiped out most of humanity and a face that was seen shooting Adama. This feeds into the Zarek subplot. Zarek appears a lot more hesitant to kill Apollo than in the last episode. Oh, what's that pillow song? Something for a pillow. Was everyone should have a for a pillow?
Apollo,
yeah, sorry, that's where my brain went straight away.
Apollo, yeah.
Everyone should have a bosom for Apollo.
He's a tit, so.
Tish.
Yay.
It's not clear, is this because he's having second thoughts or because he realises that the situation isn't favourable to him anymore? I think it's the latter. I think it's just the odds are not in his favour. Does that make him an interesting character? I think he still is.
Yeah. You never quite know which way he's going to go.
No. Mr. Henchman takes things into his own hands and tries to recruit Sharon with perhaps the most transparent manipulation seen on screen so far. Glad she doesn't fall for it. The basis of any good relationship is trust, but from our point of view, Sharon abuses that trust quite a bit with the whole, "I'm going to do something stupid, but I'm not telling you. If you love me, you'll let me do it." It's really unfair to Hilo and downright mentally abusive. But then again, Sharon might be under just a bit of stress. Let's see how their relationship evolves. So they find the tomb and see the constellations of the different colonies from Earth. I'm not sure the physics of the solution holds up. I like the idea. Now they have a heading and a landmark, but not an actual location. Again, this is where I think it's a projection, and it's deliberately artificial. Hence, it doesn't matter about the physics, plus magic. As a sort of B-plot, Six is trying to convince Boltar that she's just his subconscious. That isn't even remotely believable, taking into account how much predetermined information she's had in the past. And although we do get a scene with Boltar trying to get a CT scan from a very Grumpelkossel while being groped, the whole subplot seems a bit tedious. But we do learn that Six almost certainly isn't a chip.
Oh, I found it quite amusing.
I did, yeah. So I think that Six enjoys torture. The episode ends with a similar scene that ended the miniseries, with Adama rousing the crowd. The resolution to combining the fleet seemed a bit too easy, but on the other hand the conflict always was between Adama and Roslin, and since they're now on a first-name basis, everything else most likely happened quite organically. So a fitting conclusion, and now halfway through the season we've finally tied up most of the plot threads started at the end of Season 1. Mid-season finale next week. Nothing exciting could possibly happen then, could it? Thank you!
Thanks, guys. And Jeff has this to say: one quick note about Home Part 1. I love that it was Duwala who was the one to convince Adama to change course. In fact, I think she was the only one that could have done it. That was a nice moment.
Yeah.
Was also really curious as to how they would wrap up this particular story arc. Both sides had acted in the extreme and seemed to be diametrically opposed. I actually found Bill Adama choosing to act out of love and forgiveness to be pretty moving. I got choked up a little bit when he and Lee embraced. Yeah. Not surprising you didn't take that path with Caprica Sharon, whose path through this episode was very interesting. You wouldn't have blamed her for believing James Remar's provocations, and it was really satisfying that she chose not to act out of fear, but of hope and trust. Also interesting was Tom Zarek, who seemed genuinely conflicted about killing the Adamas. He continues to defy cartoon villainy.
Yeah.
Baltar is having another crisis of faith, so Head 6 chooses an interesting means of punishment this time. It was nice to see Tricia Helfer getting to dress comfortably, as she once again impressed with her acting. If I haven't praised Donnelly, Rhodes, Doc Cockle yet, both the character and the actor are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see him and Baltar play off each other more often. And what is Head 6 exactly? She isn't a chip, and the knowledge she has sure doesn't seem like she's a mere hallucination. I was satisfied with the conclusion, but a small part of me nagged that it was a little too nice and neat. But I have a feeling we'll continue to see the fallout of this conflict for a while to come. I'm going to be very curious to hear what others think. Well, there we are.
Thank you.
Thank you, and let's find out what others think on the MP3s.
What did Parry think of this?
Hello orgs, Parry here to talk about Home Part 2. So my initial view of this episode is rambling. Not that it was rambling, it was actually quite well written. More that they did a lot of rambling in it. I think I was expecting a bit more action than lots of slogging through the rain. It actually reminded me of some summer school trips from my primary school days where we'd usually be sent out to country park somewhere, and it was inevitably raining because summer, and we'd end up tramping through the woods, and I did feel that everyone there was just hoping that there would be an adventure playground at the end of it, and there wasn't. There was an Indiana Jones style puzzle instead, but I did like the fact that there's some momentum with the Earth finding, that they now have a hint as to where they're going. They're not just wandering aimlessly, evading Cylons. They now have a direction. I think that's good. It means that the series feels like it has some forward motion. Now, there was also a lot of stuff in the woods. Adama, I mean, I actually quite liked, if you think about it, the way everything ties together. Adama and a limited crew, he took Tyrell because he's been down there, and he took Billy to talk to Roslin, and presumably he had a pilot who stayed with the Raptor. But he took a limited crew down there because it's kind of dangerous and he doesn't want to lose too many people, which I think made sense. And yeah, they kind of catch up quite quickly with the Roslin's troop, who are now feeling quite damp and low. I did like the kind of subplot with one of Zarek's people trying to get Boomer to kill Apollo, and later Apollo and Adama. And indeed the way Boomer kind of twisted that, you did wonder where she was going, but she actually kind of twisted that into a loyalty demonstration of herself, the fact that she had a gun on Adama and didn't use it. Adama obviously wasn't pleased to see her, but one of the things, the series often gets a lot of flack for being unremittingly grim. And what I liked about this one is, yes, we get some fun episodes and we get some funny moments. And I mean, the Baltar subplot here, I'll go on to in a second. But one of the things I like is you also get these occasional warm moments. So when Adama meets Lee, there is this sudden, you all kind of feel, it's that kind of reconciliation and a bit of warmth. And it's only a couple of seconds, but it is just that thing that lifts it out of everything's horrible and we're all dying. And similarly, the conversation between Roslin, I mean, there is a thing, Roslin's got kind of a little, I'm proud of you smile. And genuinely a combination of getting like sort of well done, a gruff well done from Adama, and an I'm proud of you smile from Roslin. I mean, that could pretty much make anyone's day. And so I quite like them kind of linking, again, reconciling. So it was quite good. Adama's down there doing his actual healing. So there is definite motion. The Baltar subplot I found quite fun as well. Again, it was a comedy subplot. What I will give is for Tricia Helfer. I did like her sudden change from very sexy 6 to weekend at home 6, effectively, when she's suddenly in the the tracksuit and the hair tied back and not heavily made up. And I just thought that was a really good change. And she played it different briefly. There was a brief moment where I thought, have they switched actresses? Is there someone else there? And it's like, no, that's her. It's amazing the personality change and the way they changed how she worked just for Baltar's crisis of faith. So yeah, overall, for all that it wasn't doing what I expected, I thought it was actually a pretty solid episode, even if it had a lot of tramping through rainy woods, which gave me a childhood flashback. So yeah, I will. And of course, at the end, the whole fleet's back together, and I think that's maybe my one gripe is, basically, they find the map, and then the next thing we cut, everyone's back, the fleet's back together. And I thought maybe there could have been a bit of something there, but it's not a deal breaker. I'll be back shortly to talk about the final cut. But until then, bye for now.
Bye. Yeah, I guess we didn't expect quite so much rambling.
Yeah, and there is a lack of silence, wasn't there, on Kobol, whereas before
it was
a dangerous place to
whatever.
be. Yeah, but apparently they had thought about having a scene with Cylons attacking, but just basically couldn't fit it in with everything else that was happening.
Yeah. So do you think then that they gathered together and Sharon went, let's get ready to ramble?
Possibly.
Sorry. And yeah, I agree with you that yes, it's grim, and Battlestar does have a reputation for being grim, but there are warm moments, and they're very moving when they happen.
We've heard from Drew and Tracy.
So that was Home Part 2.
Yes.
And what did you think of that?
Again, I think it was a bit slow and a bit talky, not super amounts of action, I guess pushing the plot on forward, but, you know.
I was quite bored at this one.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
I'm honest.
I guess you got to go through these bits to, like, push it forward, but, yeah, not much exciting going on.
So, I do get confused with, like, the different Sharons, right? So she's bleating on to Hilo about how she feels... she's got these memories about getting her wings and how she remembers being in uniform, and now that she's back with Hilo and she's with Kira, that she feels at home. But then why doesn't she remember... And I think later on they do say about it, but, why is she not saying about how much remorse that she shows about shooting Adama, and why does she not kind of say that she's got feelings for the chief and stuff like that? She's just a bit like, I know you, but I'm not quite sure why I know you. And it's like, well, how can you have all these memories about getting your wings and feeling at home, but not remembering everything?
I don't know. I mean, saying remorse, she has said she's a different Sharon, so even if she's got the memories of doing bad stuff, I guess she doesn't feel like she was personally in control of doing the bad stuff. But that's
feelings, isn't it? That you don't have feelings, and that's what she keeps bleating on about, how she's got feelings.
But I do agree with you, though. It is a bit weird that she's got so much of, like, let's call her original Sharon, the one who ended up shooting Adama and then got killed. She's got so much of her memories, but then she hasn't got all of them, like being shot and that. I don't really get it.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what that... Not ploy, but what that bit in the middle was, where I can't remember the characters.
Yeah, Tom Zarek.
Yeah, Zarek and his mate. They were obviously trying to turn her against the crew so that they would kill Apollo. But then she kind of, nobody else knew about that kind of little ploy. And then she shoots Zarek's mate, and then tells Adama that she's kind of doing everything of her free will. Well, I didn't kind of get that. Why? Well, you're not going to redeem yourself to him, are you? At the end of the day.
Well, no, I think she did. I think the first thing I'd say is it was a bit of a plot device, wasn't it? Because we all thought that she was going to do something bad with that guy, and shoot Adama and Lee and whatever. So it was a bit of a twist for us, for the viewer. But I don't know. Perhaps she has redeemed herself. She sort of said, I think. She's kind of giving the game away, saying, "Oh, this was the plot to get you, but I'm not that person. I am somebody who can be trusted."
But then she was saying about, they don't think of us as humans. Well, Cylon's not human.
Yeah, well, look at the end. She was in the cell, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of it's a little bit driving me crackers.
Okay.
So the thing with Boltar and Six.
Yes.
Now, so she's trying to convince him that he's crazy.
Yeah, he sort of thinks like she is like something, so to speak,
like
physical,
an implant. Yeah,
like
because
an implant.
Did she say that she was an implant?
No, but he suspects that's what it's going on.
Okay,
isn't
so
it?
that's why he's having a brain scan. That was really funny. That doctor was the funniest I've ever seen him.
He's good.
But he's really good. Yeah, I don't know. This kind of episode was a bit lame. Like when the chief sees Sharon and then he instantly points his gun, and then later on when he goes up to her and Hilo and comes up to him and she's giving him a cuddle and a kiss, you just be like, get the fuck off me. You wouldn't be so like,
oh, Chief's good nature.
Yeah, but you're not gonna do that because he's very cautious of her, and the way she's all like to Chief, I remember you, and hugging him and kissing him, and Hilo's there looking. I'd have been, if I was Hilo, I'd be like, I'm right here.
Yeah, I know.
Can you not see me?
Yes, I did think that as well. Yeah.
That was funny, but
Yeah, not super great episode.
no, they need to get a little bit better because normally I'm like, I watch an episode and I'm like, come on, next one, let's have it.
Yes.
But I'm a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I can be asked with it.
I'm sure the next one will be better, hopefully.
I'm sure it will. Anyway,
Let's find out.
in it. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, we don't understand quite how it works, but this is a different Sharon. So they have
And
some of the same memories.
Yes, but what she doesn't have memories of is the time when the other Sharon was basically following whatever programming she was given to assassinate Adama, because she didn't know herself. That Sharon didn't know that's what she was going to do. So there was the whole Manchurian Candidate business.
Yeah.
She doesn't have memories of that because she wasn't in her own senses at that point anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but I think as well that perhaps deliberately for Cylons, you share memories, but you don't have the same connection emotionally to those memories, and so the Sharon that's with Hilo remembers being with Tyrrell, but it's more of a passive memory rather than a memory connected with emotions as it would be for the original Sharon who experienced it.
Halo is very stuck on the edge of that conversation.
He looks so awkward, bless him.
Like, hello. Yeah.
But it is a peck on the cheek. It isn't more than that.
Yeah. And I don't think she's redeemed in Adama's eyes, hence she's in a cage by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So.
But she ought to be redeemed in at least some of their eyes,
Yeah,
I
but
would think.
I'm not sure they're completely ever going to trust her again, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a talky episode, but I find it interesting talky stuff.
Yeah.
Like, interesting stuff is being revealed. It's not just, pondering imponderables. It's actually moving the plot onwards, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, me too. I don't think it needs to be quite so rainy, though.
Yeah.
What did the Llama God make of this?
President Roslin's climbing around and why is he climbing a mountain?
Ah, yes, right. So this episode is one that certainly sticks in the memory, and it's one that I remember well from the first time, and indeed only time watching through. And I think that's because of the themes that play through it in this episode. And indeed what I remember most strongly is the exchange between Adama and Roslin. I forgive you, I wasn't asking, but I forgive you anyway. And you could see that as being arrogant in a way of Adama to assume that he's the one that needs forgiveness, but I don't think that's the place where he's coming from. I don't think he's at the place where he's saying anyone was at fault. His very willingness to actually go on the mission, offer himself as an olive branch, put himself into danger, I think that shows that he's just aware of how culpable he is in the whole situation as well. So ultimately, I think what this shows you about Adama is that he is the sort of person who can now give and offer forgiveness, who is understanding and a bit more compassionate. And I think that's a very important message for the series, because it shows that whilst he is indeed still the leader of the military, he's not just someone who's going to be interested in using military force to achieve what he wants, and he's able to see things from another perspective as well. And I think we've seen some of that anyway already, but this is just nice to have it confirmed, and the fact that he confirms it to Roslin is quite powerful. And there are certainly a lot of powerful moments in this episode. All of the reunions definitely bring a lump to the throat. Adama with Lee, Kara with Adama, all that stuff is great, but again, there's just some excellent lines here. Every day is a gift from the gods? No, from you. That line actually just made me tear up, because again, this is their characters now realising that whether they believe they're being manipulated by some sort of guiding hand or not, the one thing they've got to rely on is each other. They are all that is left of the human race, and they need to be able to rely on each other, and that's what this episode proves, and it's lovely, really. And aside from that, there's also the mechanics of the plot. We get to actually see the tomb of Athena. It's not just Lara Roslin's drug-out old rantings, it is a thing that actually exists. The MacGuffin does actually open the thing, and the thing is a secret special space map. Again, I don't know, I'll be interested to see what other people make of this, but given a lot of the mythical imagery and stuff from the series so far is coming from the six that is in Altar's head, and also from Roslin, who's on drugs, it certainly seems like it's very easy to question all this stuff about God or the gods or whatever, but suddenly you're confronted by this actual realistic thing that happened. Maybe it's just a hologram, don't know, but there's definitely something to the stories, and that's what they're investigating. And this is a tantalising piece of mythology that's being offered up for us, and it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. And it's going to be an interesting juxtaposition as well, because of course we have the very realistic seeming military-esque side of the whole Galactica Galactica, and then we've got this message from the gods as well. Also, the very interesting revelation that Geminon, or Tauron, all the other names that we've heard, or the spacified names, were originally Gemini, Taurus, the names that we use on Earth. So does that mean that they come from us? Or is it just something? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully we'll find out before the end of the series. There's, of course, also the lovely moment where they actually try and get into the tomb, and they're having to do the searching. They obviously were looking for a door. I was half waiting for someone to say that they needed to actually be catching the last light of Durin's Day, or something like that. Durinon's Day, Duracell's Day. Who knows? It's toasters, they need batteries. But that definitely certainly reminded me of a film that hadn't actually come out by that point. But, people have read The Hobbit. Probably just as well they didn't burst into song while they were questing along through the woods. Far over the misty mountains, and all that. And it was a nice way that they handled Sharon as well in this episode, where there's a nice little through line of playing on her fears that the Colonials are going to turn against her, and of course they are, it's very well founded. But to actually do something about that and have this Sharon actually save Adama or diffuse a situation that was about to go south, yeah, that's very nice. Of course, all she gets for her rewards is a prison cell, but at least she gets a prison cell. She doesn't get spaced, so you could say that she's being treated very harshly, but she is a member of a combatant force, and Roslin would happily space the lot of them. So I think she's probably doing quite well. So see how much she keeps on doing. Along the way, it was also good to see Zarek's own change of mind as he comes to get to know Lee and the other members of their little party better. And of course, what's also great is that part of his change of mind comes when they are, of course, peeing in the woods. You're going to get a new theme for that? Do you have a theme for that, of taking a piss in the woods? It's good to see they could improvise and they didn't actually have the Galactica bathrooms. So maybe there's some hope for him. Maybe he's going to temper himself over time. Maybe not. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I think that's something that I'm liking about this series, that we are going to wait and see. We are going to get all these mysteries resolved at some point. Maybe, I don't know. But at least they're not going to go nowhere with them. And one of those mysteries, of course, is what exactly is the six in Baltar's head. There's some lovely moments in this episode which again tells us a lot about his character. He doesn't want there to be a chip in his head, but he doesn't want to be mad either. And he actually doesn't not want to be an instrument of God now. So he's actually starting to believe whatever he's being told by whoever she is, because she's not a chip. We've seen that much. Unless, of course, could she be making him hallucinating? Could the whole results of the scan be a lie? I don't know. Probably not. She doesn't seem to have had those powers yet. But what is she? Who is she? She claims to be an angel sent by God. Can't really make a lot of sense right now, but given the other events of this episode, can't rule out some sort of divine intervention or some other sort of higher power interacting. Who knows? We may be just a couple of episodes away from a hello. Let's see if we get one next time, shall we?
Oh yeah, thanks for that flashback.
Oh wow!
We Tab-Hal have started covering Automan, which features Patrick and McNee in the pilot episode. That was getting Galactica 1980 flashbacks all over the place.
Hello.
Hello. And is it just me, or did he sound like he was feeding back from his loo?
Yes.
For total authenticity for Battlestar Galactica. I mean, hats off.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And yeah, you're right. Although it seems bad that she's in a cell, because she isn't the one who's done the wrong thing, if you see what I mean. She's not the same Sharon. She was originally going to be spaced.
It's progress.
Cell is progress. Cell is better. And as someone else said, but I can't remember who, because Beer, she is part of the race that tried to kill all of humanity.
Yeah, and he went to a Hobbit place as well.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Nice tune.
Yes.
Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, find our long forgotten goal.
Oh, I might play out to that one.
It's definitely better than Let's Get Ready to Rumble, let's face it.
It is a mile better than that, yeah.
Yes. What did Andrew make of this?
Hey, it's me. So, here's the thing. While I was recording this and editing this, I made a slight fuck-up, and I was unable to fix the fuck-up. And as a result of said fuck-up, the feedback that you're about to listen to sounds slightly weird. So just to let you know, there's nothing wrong with whatever device you're listening to this on. It hasn't suddenly broken. Okay, so on with the feedback. Well, good news for the fleet. Saltai is back in command temporarily. Yay. I've written a couple of lines down, a couple of lines of dialogue, things which kind of caught my attention. First one is something that Billy says to Adama. She says of President Roslin that the last time she saw him, she wasn't too happy with him. And I'm wondering if I'm misremembering, because it seemed like they were on reasonably good terms. It was a surprise, I think, to Roslin that Billy wasn't coming along with her, but I don't think she was showing any bad feeling at all. unless he knows her well enough to know when she's putting on a bit of a front and there actually is some displeasure there. I do think that Roslin does seem very lonely on Kobol until Billy and Adama turn up there. Quite isolated in a way which is quite unusual for her, but it alleviates quickly enough when everybody else turns up. The other line was a line from Tom Zarek when he's scheming with Dexter's dad, and he says, "Getting blood on your hands is a lot harder than washing it off," which the first time I heard it I thought, wait, is that right? Because it sounds like it should be the other way around. I don't know if that's just programming from other such lines in other films and TV shows. It seems like it should be getting blood on your hands is a lot easier than washing it off. Like an act of murder is relatively quick, but the guilt stays with you for a long time. But he says it the other way around. Getting blood on your hands is a lot harder than washing it off, which kind of reveals an attitude that it's the killing itself in Tom Zarek's eyes that's the difficult bit, and the living with it afterwards is relatively easy. You know, the aftermath is not so difficult as the fact itself. I felt that Sharon was used very effectively in this episode. She had a lot to do with lots of different characters. There's yet more evidence that there is memory sharing amongst the Sharons. She remembers stuff that happened on Galactica. How that works, I still don't know. But she didn't remember shooting Adama, I think it was. Or at least she claimed not to remember it. So there is some limit to the memories that the models can share. Maybe it's a question of when the individual model was activated. Maybe this Sharon was activated relatively recently, and before she was activated she would have had access to the memories of the other Sharons, including the one on Galactica, maybe especially the one on Galactica, but I don't know. But when Sharon shoots Dexter's dad and gives the gun over to Adama, that is really speaking to Adama on his level, you know, appealing to personal choice and personal responsibility, and taking ownership of your own choices. It's a very small first step, but given that Adama's first instinct was to strangle her, it's actually quite a very big progression for him in that moment, to take her at her word, and accept that she is helping them of her own free will. Now, I don't know what anyone might have been expecting the Arrow of Apollo to do, but I think what we get from when the Arrow of Apollo is brought into the Tomb of Athena actually works very well as a storytelling device. The actual astronomy of it, I think, may be a little bit wonky, but the basic idea of it, find the planet where these constellations look like this. Really clear, really easy to understand, there's no heavy technobabble, it's conceptually very simple. It's also got a very nice sort of poetic, lyrical quality to it, which, given all the myth and legend which are surrounding this whole situation, is actually very appropriate. And the final line of the episode, from 6, that she's an angel of God sent to protect, guide, and love to the end of the human race, is just a gorgeous, portentous, enigmatic line that also appeals to the same kind of myth as the Tomb of Athena and the Arrow of Apollo and Standing on the Surface of Earth does. It's a great line that finishes off a good episode. So that's Home Part 2. I will be back in a number of minutes to talk about Final Cut. Until then, stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I guess it is a big step for Adama, I keep making that mistake, to trust Sharon, given that he was going to kill her a moment ago, and it does put her being in a cell into context, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And yeah, Roslin is lonely and isolated, and is it Zarek who points that out?
It specifically says Elisha having bought the farm, now she's all lonely and isolated, so yes, I think that's the reason why she's so happy to see Billy again. But he's right, Andrew's right, they didn't particularly leave with any great amount of rancour, so...
No, unless, as he said, it's supposed to be that he can read her and knows that she's more angry than she was otherwise letting on. Possibly. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you all. So let's move on to the final cut.
Ellen, are you okay?
Oh, gods. Oh, I'm so scared.
From the darkness you must fall.
What does it mean?
So this was intended to be the first of several standalone episodes to give a pause before the next arc. But it's clearly a follow-up on the Gideon Massacre, so it's not really that standalone, is it?
No.
I mean, if you didn't see that episode, then it loses some of its meaning. I mean, obviously they have the cash-up so that you've got some idea, but yeah, bizarre. Hey-ho. And it's directed by Robert Young, who had previously done a lot of documentaries, so a good choice to direct what involves an awful lot of documentary footage, after all.
Yeah.
Having had our recap of Coffeegate, we have another recap, this time with extra footage forming part of a news report by Deanna Beers, played by Lucy Lawless.
Yeah.
Yes, they tried to get her on board before, but she wasn't. I think she was doing a different role at the time. Producer David Icke had worked with her on Xena and was desperate to get her on the show, and she's really good in this.
She is.
Very different character. A sign of a good actor, that is. She's clearly got range.
Yep.
It's just a shame that for some reason they insist on having their screens with the corners cut off, which is just insane.
Yeah.
Why would anybody go with that as a choice? But apparently they did that to distinguish the documentary footage from the main shots, so there's a logic, but it's weird, yeah. Anyway, Marines turn up to take her to the President and Adama, and she finds out that she's been giving access to the Galactica to give a human face to the crew, because that's going to work out well. Or very Babylon 5 and now for a word, isn't it?
I actually wrote in my notes, when is Linnea going to nut a camera?
Yeah. Ty gets a call from Ellen. Someone has daubed from the darkness you must fall in their quarters, which turns out to be Capricorn poetry, so it's a nice teaser.
Yep.
We're down another couple of survivors. That's presumably your man Mayer and the other dude that got shot in the head, so that works. Starbuck jokes about being number one suspect for threatening Ty.
Yeah, I like that.
Please, can I go back on the list, please? I like that.
I love that.
In the senior pilot's quarters, we see Deanna and her camera dude, who's someone who knows how to film in real life. So some of his footage that he shot is actually used.
Uh-huh.
Although often they couldn't use it because it showed the actual camera crew.
Yeah, which is going to be a problem,
It's a bit difficult. Cat moons the viewers, not us, sadly. The camera also picks up Lieutenant Palladino, a.k.a. Hammerhead, a.k.a. the dude who's in command of the coffee riot. Apollo tells him to get lost, nearly losing his towel in the process.
Which I like. It's amusing. This is the fact that he's dumb enough to sort of, and why don't you just tuck it in? It's not that hard.
Tuck what in? Oh, the towel. Okay, right. Humble old Baltar is cheesed off that he's not being interviewed. Six says Deanna can help them, so he encourages him to talk to her, although he then plays hard to get, which is quite funny. Oh, yes, speak to my people. What a strange little man, she comments to Duala.
Yeah.
Apollo attempts to defend his pilots being ill-disciplined in an interview on the basis that of all they sacrificed for the fleet. Not an unheard of military argument, it has to be said. That justifies, unfortunately, horrendous behaviour.
Yeah.
The Chief and Cat lose it on camera, and ironically, it's Starbuck who has to enforce discipline.
I like that.
It turns out that Kara is no fan of Cat, and that will kind of continue.
Yeah.
Private Scott Kelso is interviewed next and throws Ty under the bus for Coffeegate.
Yeah.
Until Palladino cuts in. Adama sends Ty to represent Galactica at some conference, or Bitchfest as he puts it.
I like that.
Maybe not the best person to be sending, and Ty kind of acknowledges it.
And Ty's like, why are you sending me?
Yeah.
This is mad.
Adama sees it as the opportunity to take some shore leave, but not with any alcohol.
Yeah.
The Raptor Saul is due to take nearly does explode, so someone is definitely trying to kill him. Ron Moore raises the issue that everyone should be wearing a flight suit in the Raptors, because the pilots and the person who does the navigation stuff does, so why don't all the passengers? And the reason is, of course, they can't afford any more flight suits, so hey-ho. Ellen is stirring with Ty again, suggesting Roslin is conspiring with Adama to throw him under the bus. Gator is smoking during his interview, which seems a bit odd, really.
But also, as well, at one point he said he doesn't like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Well,
but apparently the idea is that he's shown that he's becoming a bit unhinged due to the
Yeah.
situation they're in. And he's got himself a tattoo as well. Although originally it was going to be on his butt. How many more butts do we need to see in this episode?
the thing is, it made me think of the tiger who came to tea.
Yeah. And he finally gets his first name as well. So, as does Duala. It's
Yes.
Anastasia. Deanna offers Ty a drink before their interview. That's going to go well, isn't it? And sure enough, it's seconds in before he realises he's being set up and storms out.
Yeah.
Which I think happens a bit too quickly, really. It's like, was he already drinking loads before he started this interview?
Yeah.
Well, that's quite possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, She goes on to ask Adama why Ty is being charged for Coffeegate. We're at war is the response, which of course can justify anything.
Yeah.
But he's right that they'll run out of military very quickly if they sack them all the time, I suppose. Captain Kelly is back! Yay! We haven't forgotten about Captain Kelly again. It would appear that he's generally the LSO, or landing signal officer, as we see him in charge as a knackered cat comes in to land and nearly crashes, and it turns out she's been taking stims. More stupidly points out, because this had never occurred to me, that there's no reason why they should normally need to come in so fast, and rationalises it as them always making combat landings. Why, when they're not in combat, would they make that risk? It's another instance of him pointing out flaws in his own work that I hadn't noticed. It's kind of amusing, really. It's the downside of listening to the commentaries. You actually hear Ron Moore go, actually, I got that wrong. And he's like, oh, I hadn't noticed that, thanks. Yeah. Anyway, in the process of following Cap to sick bay, Deanna gets footage of Sharon and the baby. Well, not the baby, but anyway. Yeah. So Adama takes the tape off her, but she's given him a different one and kept the real one in her bra, as you do.
I mean, I'm not saying he should start checking her bra, because there's all sorts of issues with that. But you should never trust a journalist who says they've given you the tape. They never have.
Six encourages Boltar to use his interview as a means of launching a move to take the presidency, but before the camera can properly roll, the alarm goes off and they're all off to cover an attack by the Cylons. Oh, that's show business, he said. Yeah. We don't see any of the attack because we're with the cameras on the CIC and the launch deck, which is fair enough as that's the conceit of the episode. Ty returns to his quarters to find Ellen tied up. Oh. Get it? He's knocked out and comes round to see Palladino is responsible. He's suffering from PTSD. Ty admits he's responsible and encourages Hammerhead to shoot him, sticking his head to the gun, which is a nice thing.
And I like that. He doesn't try and prevaricate or say, no, it wasn't me or whatever. He owns up to it.
But apparently the lieutenant can't follow through and Ty takes his weapon from him. Originally then, Palladino would have shot himself in the face.
Ooh, nasty.
But they felt that was too dark.
Just a bit.
If it's too dark for BSG, it really is too dark.
Yeah.
Sensibly, Roslin et al. Are watching the documentary before broadcast, and Ty is unsurprisingly unimpressed, but Adama thinks it's great, showing them warts and all. And Deanna's conclusion is that these are very real people on the edge, but they've got. Yeah. And it plays out with a classic Galactica theme, which is lovely.
What I really like.
So at this point you think, yeah, that's nice, but so what? But then we see the documentary showing to the humanoid Cylons on Caprica in a cinema. Apparently that's what they do in their time. Including the cut footage of Boomer and the baby, and it's revealed Deanna is one of them, which at least gives the episode something of an unpredictable moment to finish on, because otherwise it's like, oh, that's a bit of a wimp out, really. We were expecting her to splash the dirt, and she didn't, but it's like, oh, hang on a minute, she's not who we thought she was. Plus, also, the threat against Ty also gives the episode a bit of an edge that you wouldn't have otherwise.
And then they're like, we're not going to attack... It's not that they're not going to attack the humans necessarily, but they've got to protect the baby, so they're clearly not going to attack Galactica. And Six is so pissed off, isn't she?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Ron Moore didn't particularly want to include the Ty business, as he wanted a purely character piece. But I think you do need a plot like that just to keep your interest. I mean... Things are supposed to happen. It's not just characters just talking. You've got to have stuff going on as well. So
also, it's realistic that people would be gunning for Ty.
Yeah, indeed, yes. And particularly
for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand why Palladino has turned on him effectively.
Yeah.
So another good episode, I thought.
Yes, I enjoyed it. And Doreen has this to say. This was much better. Most of the episode was leaving me cold. I sort of felt like it was trying to imitate Babylon 5 and Lower Decks.
Yeah.
The screening for Adama, Saul and Roslin was brilliant, and some homage to Babylon 5. Also, the montage with the original Galactica thing was just right.
Yeah.
I really began to change how I looked at the reporter when she sort of solved the mystery of who was threatening the ties. The news report really made me think of her much more favourably. And then, boy, was I surprised when she was one of the lead Cylons in the camera at Caprica at the end. Yeah, it is a nice twist.
Yeah. Sampo and Yona have this to say. So this is the traditional outsider episode that we often get in television, with the regulars being seen from the point of view of someone else. Although episodes like this are usually light filler episodes, this one does come up with some major revelations. The fleet actually has some sort of television in addition to radio, and most importantly their transmissions are the same octagon shape as their papers.
Yeah.
Although all monitors are square, so that's stupid and it's glorious.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
They don't fit, do they?
No. Reporter Deanna gets free reign on the Galactica and appears to use it really arrogantly. At times she appears to think that getting a good scoop is more important than the stability of the fleet, although she puts out a good product in the end. And yes, she's a Cylon.
Yeah.
That really was not telegraphed at all beforehand, which is good, of course. Well, that begs the question, was the whole documentary just part of the plan to get some intel on the Galactica?
Well, at one point, you do see them focusing on the Dreidus.
Mm-hmm. Or is it just happy coincidence?
I think it's both.
Is the Deanna model aware that she is a Cylon or a sleeper agent like Boomer was? There's no way to tell. I did find it cute that all the different humanoid Cylons were sitting in their little cinema watching the movie. They should have had popcorn, shouldn't they?
Yes.
And it was interesting that they are genuinely happy that Sharon survived and that she's still pregnant, so their plan to reproduce is proceeding, though not exactly as they'd planned. In the documentary, we see the Galactica crew breaking down and making mistakes. Yana mentioned that this was more of what she expected to see in Season 1, where everyone was really professional, where they just experienced Armageddon. So the question is, was this a normal day, and we just usually don't see these things, or was Deanna there just on a very bad day? The Gideon massacre was at the centre of the story, and it's good it wasn't forgotten. I don't really agree with Adama. I think someone should be held accountable for what happened all over the area. Yeah. Although he did use the same having to live with himself is punishment enough line of thinking with Tyrrell in Season 1. Someone is threatening Ty, and Deanna goes all Sherlock Holmes and works it out. What? A pilot reading poetry? The case is solved. Yana pointed out that when Ty is lamenting about his problems, and Ellen whirs around him giving observations of bad advice, it's really similar to Boltar and Six. Like someone said in Season 1, if Ellen isn't a Cylon, then they're in trouble. That was Apollo, wasn't it? She's at least acting like one. Speaking of Paul Boltar, I guess he never got his interview. So this was a really good and interesting episode, giving a refreshing point of view on life aboard the Galactica.
Yeah, I'd say so. And we've heard from Jeff, who writes, so far, Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica has been borrowing ideas from Deep Space Nine, so now it was time to borrow from that other great space station, so Babylon 5. It is the news media in a very interesting way, and there were at least 2 episodes of that series that played out like Final Cut. I've also seen many other television shows use this type of documentary style before, and it's a very effective means of storytelling. You get a new outside perspective on the characters you know and love, and can be used to give a spotlight on minor background characters. This episode did all of those things very well. Ty's subplot assuages some of the worries of last episode's seemingly nice and neat wrap-up. It also gives the character another moment to show he's more than just a washed-up incompetent drunk. Lucy Lawless is fantastic. I knew her from Xena, but for the first time I saw this episode was when I really took notice of her. Been a big fan ever since. That twist at the end seems to promise we'll be getting more of her too, so that's fantastic. Lastly, I love the use of the original series theme song in the presentation. Seeing as also used in-universe in the miniseries, maybe it's the Colonial Fleet song, like Anchors Away is the official song of the US Navy.
Who knows? Right, what did Andrew make of this one?
Do you know what my biggest worry with doing these feedbacks is? It's the start. It's like doing an essay at school or at university. Once I get an idea of what the start's going to be, once I know how to get into the thing, I'm good to go. I can find my way from there. I don't know how to start this one. I don't know what my way into this one's going to be, other than just this sort of meta way of starting by saying I don't know how to start. Basically, I didn't get an awful lot from this. And actually, if there hadn't been the sting in the tail at the end that Deanna Beers is actually a Cylon, I think I might have been actually bored by this episode. Threats against Ty's life doesn't do much for me. The talking head interview stuff, little snippets of backstory, I didn't really find that very interesting. I quite liked the story mechanic whereby Kat overdoses on stims and crashes her Viper, and it's following her going into sickbay that Deanna Beers and her cameraman spot Sharon Valeri. So Kat's story serves the longer-term story of the Cylons being interested in reproduction, but it also works just on its own, and its own merits. Everybody's being pushed really hard, she's taking stims to keep up. Obviously what's going to happen next is that Kat's going to go walking throughout Battlestar Galactica until she meets herself, which I believe, if television hasn't lied to me, is the accepted treatment for stim addiction. Seeing the fighter battle from entirely within CIC and not cutting to the outside, kind of novel. It was effectively done, but overall really the whole thing just didn't do much for me. I think some of that has to do with the fact that the video that Deanna Beers makes at the end doesn't really tell us anything we don't already know. She's given free rein to go throughout Galactica and talk to anyone she wants to talk to, and everyone on Galactica is very wary of her, and or annoyed by her, so there's a kind of tension there, which is resolved by her actually creating a film which shows them in a good light, so their concerns weren't warranted, actually. But that happens at the cost of us basically being told from within the universe stuff that we already know. We already know that everyone on Galactica is basically virtuous. Rough around the edges, certainly, but they're all basically dutiful people who are doing a difficult job under difficult conditions, and they're all basically looking out for the fleet and the future of humanity, and the rare accidental fuck-ups are rare accidental fuck-ups. They're not deliberate malice. And I think we know all that. And the only reaction to the film that we see, apart from the Cylons watching it from their base star cinema, wherever that is from people in Galactica who are quite chuffed to be highly spoken of in the media. But there's not an awful lot of sense of what the rest of the fleet thinks about this. There's not an awful lot of sense of whether the rest of the fleet buys what they're being sold, told, shown. I'm sure the people on the Gideon would have some things to say. Certainly if they'd ever heard, I know it wasn't being recorded, but if they'd ever heard Adama's bit about not sacrificing Ty on the altar of public outrage, as well as having to live with having done that, sort of being punishment enough, I can imagine the Gideon having a few things to say about that, as well as Tom Zarek or anybody else, really. I mean, I know the video is basically a MacGuffin. The point of the episode is not the video. The point of the episode is the Cylons finding out through the video that Sharon is still alive and the baby is still alive. And the, oh, what's going to happen next that comes after that. But I didn't find that twist to be powerful enough to compensate for how inoffensive, how milquetoast, I suppose, I found everything else to be. Well, not everything else. I like the cat stuff. I liked that storyline on its own. But the rest of the episode, I wasn't really that entertained by. So yeah, Final Cut. Not my favourite episode so far. But it's done now, so that's fine. Good luck in your future endeavours, everybody. Don't take stims and don't hide video cassettes down your bra. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Well, that's the last time I hide a video cassette down my bra, isn't it? I found the twist very satisfactory, even knowing the twist was coming.
Yeah.
It's so nicely done that I'm quite cool with it. And yes, the video isn't revelatory, as it turns out. It's kind of, it wrong foots you, because you expect it to be damning, and it isn't. And you think, oh, well, so what then? And then you realise that, yeah, they're on Caprica watching it, the Cylons, so yeah.
Well, I mean, presumably it's partly about understanding their enemy, isn't it? That's why they're watching it.
But also, yes, updates on Sharon, yeah.
And yeah, there will be useful footage of their military equipment and whatnot that they've picked up as well.
Yeah.
What did the Llama God make of this?
Is he still on the toilet, more importantly?
Now, this episode's a nice little surprise as well, given that we're finally out of the 7-8 episode arc, whatever it was that we've had at the end of the previous season, the start of this season. There's a question of what they're going to do next and whether they're going to ignore the ongoing story with the fleet or whether they're going to actually see what the consequences were, and they decide to go for the latter, which is great, and again, gives some good confidence for the sort of long-form storytelling they're going to be doing here. What was also really nice is that the minute they decide to open up the whole of the Galactica to a TV crew, we know that this is going to go spectacularly, horribly wrong. But it doesn't, and that's a bit of a surprise. The documentary crew actually discover the truth behind all the bluster of all the gung-ho pilots and the workers on board the Galactica, and they discover the human tail beneath it, which was a real surprise to see, and there wasn't a sting in the tail or a change in the footage you might be expecting, seeing characters being portrayed in different lights to make them seem worse than they are. None of that happened. What they actually got was a documentary that they promised and that the president asked for. What makes that sting so effective is the other then secondary sting, where we find out that Xena is in fact a Cylon herself, and that's very, very nicely done, because you're expecting the episode to end one way, goes a completely different way, and now we're familiar with another one of the models, and it's another blonde. Although this time, a change, this one isn't actually using seduction to get her way, so there's clearly some sort of variation in the way that Cylons view female models, so that's semi-reassuring, although we'll see how they go with that. And also another question, was that the murdered Sharon? Yeah, the one that was the sleeper agent on the Galactica, was that her in the cinema, or was it a different Sharon? I'm starting to lose track. We're going to have to start trying to keep track of these things. But yeah, this was just actually a great little episode, and a great way to cap off the previous few episodes, just with all the little character moments. Ty being confronted with the anger of the Marine that he'd pushed into gunning down civilians, or kind of not really, but actually, when it comes down to it, the fact that he actually owned up to it, took responsibility for that, again, despite the fact that he is a complete cock-up when he's in charge, he at least does his best to be an honourable and decent man, and that's one of the things I really like about Ty. It makes him a lot more of a complex character than anyone, an infallible hero. So yeah, it was a lovely moment. I'd imagine the only part of the episode that would be a downside to anyone here would be the fact that we don't actually get to see the space battle. So yeah, I can imagine you've already ranted a bit about the cheapness of that, but really, actually, this episode, it really works, because we're seeing things just from a documentary crew's point of view. They don't know how these things usually go on. They're not going to have access to film the battle in space. So yeah, I like the fact they did that, but just as long as they don't do it too often, and we continue seeing space battles, not just blips moving across tables or something. And of course, the wonderful way that the music builds when they're playing the documentary about the Galactica to actually be the colonial anthem, or as we know it, the theme to the original Battlestar Galactica series. Or did the Children of Earth take it to the 12 colonies, where they were revered and then deified this ancient piece of music? Who knows? Will we find out? Probably not. Going to be assuming too much. In terms of Plan Watch, I don't think there's very much that we can say, apart from the fact that the Cylons remain very well embedded in the colonial fleet, given that we have a prominent newscaster there actually being able to do work and being given access and was not raising suspicion. I mean, it's a perfect cover, really. And given that she sets herself up as something of an antagonist, our agreement to go along with the crew seems a lot less suspicious in that respect. The way that she's then used by the Galactica crew and the President is therefore slightly less suspicious in that respect, so that's interesting. But they're obviously still holding the importance of being able to reproduce biologically or semi-biologically, whatever, to high importance, so I guess that's the main thing we can learn from them, is that they still want to reproduce. And since that's one of the defining features of what at least we as humans understand to be life, then that's not a surprising revelation, really. And in terms of Pregnancy Watch, well, again, not a lot to say here. Thankfully, we can't draw any parallels with how we're doing at the moment, but yeah, so far it seems that Sharon's keeping the babies, so that's something. So that is now the search for the Temple of Athena, the mutiny, and the splitting government storylines all played out, so kind of got a clean slate. So where will the next pair of episodes take us? Well, you know, see by watching those. Until then, belated Happy New Year to everyone, and I look forward to hearing what everyone else has made of these episodes on your podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I do hope your pregnancy's going better than Sharon's at the moment. It's a bit messy, really.
Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, it doesn't feel like being cheated for the space battle in this episode. But
No.
we don't want them to do it too often.
Exactly. This one is excusable, but not again.
Yeah. And you're right. One of the things this tells us is just how deeply embedded the Cylons are.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she is deflecting suspicion by being antagonistic from the get-go. And she's given it's whatever it is access, isn't it?
Yeah, full access.
Full access, yeah.
I think it's revealed later on this isn't the murdered Sharon on Caprica watching the movie. So, yeah, watch this space on that front.
Well, how many of them appeared when the one that was murdered got out?
Yeah. I mean, we were gazillions of them in the nip.
In the nip, yeah.
Riti, we've heard from Drew and Tracy on this one.
This is our feedback for Final Cut.
And what did we think of that one then?
I enjoyed that, actually.
That was really action-packed.
I don't know if it's action-packed,
Yes,
but
it was.
good.
It was really intense.
It was good.
Everything's going on in this episode.
Yep.
Whew, let's go through the points.
Okay.
So they invite
Dana.
reporter. Is that her name? I couldn't
think it
quite
was
get it.
Dana,
So Dana on board to film it as it's happening.
They didn't invite her, did they? But it was kind of like...
They did, because it was like she was going to report a mistruth and they wanted her to see it firsthand. But really, would you have wanted her to see all the nitty-gritty? When it was going through, and I'm not going to cut to the end, but when it was going through and she was filming like Starbug having a go at like Cat and you know all the fighting going on, it's like you're really not making yourself look professional.
It was
here,
a warts and all documentary, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know, but there was a lot of warts in there.
Yep.
Especially Apollo in the bath.
Yep.
Let me just say that. That's quite nice, actually, but surely they can afford some towels that are going to fit.
I know. So why are they
You know, that was like the smallest towel in history. It's not like he's big.
No.
Or is he?
Well,
he kind of like alluded, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's not that big. Come on now. So who was trying to kill Ty? We know now because I've seen the whole episode, but that was quite freaky.
Yeah, it was.
That was really weird.
I did really like that bit where Ty faced up to him and was like pointing a gun at him.
That was really tense.
And he was like saying, you know, he diffused his situation and said, "This is a choice." The other thing was like an accident.
Yeah,
it was
it was
it's
an
good.
accident.
This is the
wasn't it?
Ty that I like, which is why he's probably my favourite character. I really liked when they were filming and you only saw the battle from on board the Galactica. It's
Yeah.
like you didn't see. It's good for them for they didn't have to do any special effects, spend money. But it was good. It was good night just hearing the pilots and seeing the other side of
Yeah.
it, which is what happens every time there's a battle on board the Galactica. It's
is
good.
It is, but it made me kind of think. So they kind of made it clear now that the crew of the Galactica are it. So they're basically on call 24/7.
Yeah.
Yet Starbuck is generally, when she's not flying or if she's not in engineering, she's normally in the ready room getting pissed, gambling.
Yeah.
So if she's on call and like the Raiders came out of nowhere and they had to deploy the Vipers, she's going to be half cut most of the fucking
Maybe.
time. And also Ty is like half cut most of the time, isn't he?
Maybe, yeah.
So unless there's an unlimited supply of cigarettes on board,
Yep.
you really wouldn't want to be a smoker, would you? So we've seen Boltar smoking, and we've seen Gator smoking, and obviously Starbuck keeps having her bloody cigars.
At one point,
You wouldn't want to have a nicotine addiction.
Well, at one point, Boltar did say about this is the last of these cigarettes. Remember, he was doing it in the card game, and he was I think he might have said like Capri and Rolled or whatever. I mean, perhaps one of the ships is a cigarette supplier. You know, like
It's a tobacco merchant.
You got like your one that does the fuel, you got the one that does the water, you got the one that does the plants, and you got the fag one, haven't you?
Well,
The
you
cigarette one.
Yeah, but you would want to own that ship, wouldn't you? Because you'd be a fucking millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. I liked when they did the callback to the Battlestar Galactica
I love
original
that
music. Yeah. He was loving it, wasn't he? It's good. Good stuff.
Really enjoyed that. And it was quite nice at the end because obviously she painted them all in a very good light
Yes.
and kind of, said, oh, these are the people that are defending us.
Yeah.
And then the bombshell.
Then the
came.
reveal. You didn't remember that,
I didn't
did you?
remember that at all. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That little bit blew my mind.
Yep.
But why have we never seen another one of her?
Don't know. Can't explain. We haven't seen them all yet, have we?
Yeah, we have.
I don't know.
We've seen 2 60s, we've seen 2
There's
Sharons.
other models, I think.
That little guy we've seen, and the one who
Who knows, eh?
was tied to the tree. Yeah, no, we have
Yep.
seen him. But anyway, I enjoyed this.
Yep, it's good. It's
It was
good
quite
episode.
tense. And Kat looks like a fucking mad woman.
Yep.
Stay off the stems, love.
Yep.
Anyway, let's
Good
have the next
stuff.
one.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, take it easy. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, we haven't seen them all because there aren't 8. And we know there's 8 models.
Yep, exactly. So a few more to see yet.
Yep.
But I love the idea of the USS Benson Hedges.
Yes. Yeah, the
But
flagship.
it's Ron Moore's smoking agenda. That's what it is all about.
Really, he likes smoking.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
likes
no,
his
kind of.
cancer.
I know. It's like, no, but it's our right.
You're right to kill yourself if you want.
Hey, anyway, let's not get too stuck into that. And the fact there's a shortage of towels in the fleet as well.
Oh, dear. Also, if your towel isn't doing up very well that way round in portrait,
Yeah.
do as Elton says. Go landscape.
Or just shuffle it round a bit. That's the idea. Anyway, it's the towel I'm talking about there. Anyway.
What did Purry make of this?
Hello again, Purry here to talk about the final cut. Now, this does initially feel like a bit of a filler episode, but it's actually quite nicely done. So, this is probably most reminiscent for people who've watched Babylon 5 before of the episode And Now for a Word. Probably a bit less than The Illusion of Truth, but both of them are kind of episodes which centre around a documentary being made on the station. And indeed, this is kind of we have a documentary film crew. I quite like the idea that they're initially found sort of putting around the video of the massacre on the I can't remember the name of the ship now, but the massacre on the ship where they threw coffee at people. And yeah, I thought the sort of whole idea of doing an episode where there's basically a documentary crew going around, so rather than you have her arrested and chucked out, it's that, no, we want you to do a documentary. And indeed, of course, our documentarist Dana is none other than Xena Warrior Princess, the excellent Lucy Lawless, an actor I always enjoy. So yeah, it was really good to see. I remember seeing her and go, it took me a while first time when I watched this the first time to go, hang on, that's Xena Warrior Princess, that's awesome. Also probably that she shouldn't be messing with, people should maybe watch their step around her, because before you she's throwing some sort of metal frisbee at them. But yeah, the episode is just basically little vignettes. We do have. I quite liked seeing things like the pilots mucking about, and there were a couple of little subplots in there, like Kat on Stims, the fact that they're having trouble recruiting new pilots from the fleet, so the pilots are all getting tired out, and Kat sort of running herself ragged. I thought that was actually quite interesting. It's something that's not come up before, but again, it's the fact that in this dire situation, the fleet is always voluntary. The people who've come on to join Galactica's crew, the pilots who came in, yes, they were picked from people who had flying experience, but it was still a volunteer policy and still is. So essentially, yeah, they're still going around the fleet going, anyone with flight experience want to be a Viper pilot, and presumably they'll be doing it for some other roles as well, just to get people trained, which is actually quite interesting. We don't actually see much of that in this, but it was quite an interesting take. And yeah, you have that plot with Kat. You have the fun of Boltar trying to get his own interview, and kind of I want to be interviewed because I'm Vice President and Dr. Boltar, and it's just always fun with his narcissism kind of coming up. And indeed, he's almost going to get the interview, and then the alarm goes off. And just the little bits like Dee doing her bit, and Oz, does it get easier? And she's like, no, it's harder. The fact that this is horribly stressful every time, and it was really good. Again, for all that they said at the end, yes, this puts a human face on everyone. It did genuinely put a human face. I mean, we also had the subplot of the guy threatening Ty, and again, it was quite neat to find out it was that pilot that was doing it. You thought it would be someone who was murdered, but it's the pilot. And the way Ty talked him down, again, I think often you do. Particularly here, we've been looking at Ty as incompetent, but every so often, no, you can see where the confidence that Adama has in him comes from. When he just basically walks up to the guy and says, "Yeah, go on, shoot me." That's justice. Go on. And it was just that. Yeah. There's definitely you can see why Adama keeps him about. So yeah, that was good. And of course, at the end, we even get the theme tune again. The theme tune used as the Colonial National Anthem, which I like. But of course, we have the twist. They should have put this at the end of the credits, to be honest. But the twist at the end, Xena's a Cylon. Ooh. So yeah, we're getting quite a few Cylon models appearing now. I mean, that's us up to what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 models. I can't remember. Yeah, I think 7 models now we're at now. Actually, yeah. So I could have my count wrong. Should we keep a Cylon count? Maybe we should keep a Cylon count. Don't know. I should keep a Cylon count. Lazy. So that I am. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed this. For all that it's kind of an episode that slots in the middle and covers a couple little small stories. I think actually, yeah, it was quite effective at what it did. So all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I'll hopefully feedback at the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye.
So, okay, let's do a Cylon count.
Okay, so the ones we've seen.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we've seen number 1.
Right, hang on. Never mind numbers, do names.
No, we may as well work our way through, because we know that there are 8.
Okay. But do we know what all their numbers are yet, though?
Number 2 is Leoben.
Right.
Number 3 is Deanna.
Right.
Number 4 is Simon.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I forgot about him, but you're right.
Number 5 is Doral. Number 6 is...
Yeah.
Number 6 is number 6.
Yeah.
And number 8 is Sharon. So we're missing a number 7.
And a number 1.
And a number 1. So there you go.
Where's the Riker Cylon? So we've got 2 more to find.
And he's right. Dee is good in this. We didn't mention that, did we? But it's nice. Again, yeah, she should quite often showing the sort of human side of things. So.
Yeah. And I hadn't realised necessarily that they were volunteers. I know they say they don't get paid.
You know,
but
when they're interviewing them, and the letters come up.
Yeah.
And those letters, some of them are got like an R after them, which means they were reservists. People like Dee, for instance.
Yeah.
So she was like reservists in our armed forces today. They just happened to be serving their bit of time, as reservists do. And then it all kicked off.
Yeah.
And now they're stuck in it permanently. So.
But they haven't really got that good an economy. We know from before.
No.
So when they say they don't get paid, does anyone get paid? I mean, genuine question.
No. The point is there is no. Yeah, they were working on a barter system up till now. So.
Yeah. So what do they get?
Gratitude.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm wondering. Because I mean, they get rations. They get fed, I presume.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then
booze and fags. The USS Spencer Measures provides them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it must be near time to go to bed because we've now got 2 dogs in with us snoring away. So
Yes. Yeah.
it only remains for us to tell you what we're covering next time. But thank you to everybody who's fed back this time.
Thank you.
Now, because of Picard happening and our podcasts, so we're going to be calling them.
Are we?
Yeah, so that's thanks to Llama God.
Okay.
The next time we're recording will be next month.
Picast, you mean?
Picasts, you see.
Picast.
Yes, Picasts.
No. Picast. He's called Picard.
I know,
Picast.
Picasts. There you go.
There's no E in it. Picast.
That doesn't work. Picasts does.
Why does Picast?
Because pie.
Picard, Picast.
Anyway, next time we're recording, once we've had that argument, is on the 7th of February. And we shall be covering the episodes Flight of the Phoenix and, mid-season stuff with Pegasus.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm.
Now, in terms of the Picast, we're going to be recording on the 25th of January because it comes out on the Friday.
Mm.
We're going to give other people a chance to watch, and we're going to record on the Saturday.
This time round, yes. I mean, generally we may well be recording on the Fridays, but we can't.
It's a weekend. It won't always be the same. Same as with Discovery, it wasn't always the same.
And as before, if you've got any feedback for those Picard episodes, then just send it in, and we'll include it in the next one if we don't have it in time. So, yeah,
exactly. We're just going to do our best,
Mm.
basically. But we will let you know on Twitter's what the deadline for any given Picast episode is.
But the bottom line is, as a result of that happening, we're just trying to stay sane by just doing one Borgcast Galactica a month. So things will slow down for a bit. But then once our Piecasts are finished, then we'll...
Picast. He's not called Captain Picard, you twonk.
He should be. We'll then return to normal service eventually.
You say that, but won't Discovery happen?
Not
then?
immediately afterwards, I don't believe. So there'll be a bit of a break.
Okay.
I hope, please.
And at some point, given that one of the short treks is linked to Picard, we are hoping it will become available on something for UK viewers. We'll give you a shout. It might be, if it's available, that we'll do the Picard pilot and the relevant short trek in the same episode. But again, watch the Twitters, Borgcast Ammo, and your Starfleet Chaplain.
One of the reasons why it's a bit problematical, of course, is because in the UK, Picard is shown on Amazon, whereas Discovery is shown on Netflix, and then you've got your short treks. Obviously it doesn't match in the States because it's all on the same channel, but here it's split between 2 different streaming services. So heaven knows when we'll be getting those, and it may be not until we get the Blu-rays ultimately. But there we go.
We don't know, but if there is the relevant short trek in time for the Picard pilot, we'll do both.
So say we orcs.
So say we orcs.
Far over the misty mountains cold.
The music at the beginning of this podcast was arranged and performed by Drew Barker.
All other music is used for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
The artwork for Borgcast Galactica was created by Andy Palastides.
To contact us, send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Contact us via Twitter at rev_org or Borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Visit our website at galactica.libsyn.com.
Or view images relating to our cast on our Tumblr site, borgcast.tumblr.com.
And there's also a Spotify playlist with all our play-out tunes on it.
The winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light.
Shut it down!
By your command.